right, day 2. I can tell you what, it is already, it's only 9:20. I was out here earlier, but then I got a phone call and I was talking to a guy on the phone for like the last 30 minutes. I should have been out here earlier than that, but Shelly and I were out late last night because we had to go get lumber, and that turned into a fiasco. And then we got done getting lumber and then went to get dinner, and it just turned into a late night. But is what it is. So, new plan. Plywood's gone, underlayment's gone. That one by I was going to use for fascia, gone. Which all that stuff was here when the original plan was to save as much of the original roof structure as possible, reuse the old tin to keep the look, and because that was, I don't want, the easiest thing to do would have just been to bring the 1600 over here, push it off the foundation, scrap the tin, and just start over again. But I wanted to save as much of the original structure as possible. Well, now it basically looks like we're saving the walls and the door frames, because that's the only thing that's basically usable. But it'll still be cheaper to use the walls and the wall tin than it would be to buy. But anyway, so new plan. I had Dad come over yesterday after I got everything stripped down and we could see the structure and plan better and all that stuff. No more 2x4 rafters, no more 2x4 ridge beam. The rafters are now 2x6s. The ridge beam is a 2x10. 2x10 header, or well, I'm building headers, but building headers out of 2x10s and docking the corners to match the roof rake and everything, so the new rafters fit. So there'll be headers over the doors. Like I say, 2x10 ridge beam with 2x4 girts running out over the edges for my overhang with fly rafters on the end of the girts. Adding, hold on, I got a sneeze hung up. Come on. I hate it when that happens. Yeah, come on. And now it's gone. Okay, anyhow. Adding a second top plate to the walls for reinforcement. And then I got hurricane hangers and truss hangers and stuff for tying everything together, so it's got actual manufactured hangers and everything, so you're not toenailing and a bunch of stuff. So that's basically where we're at, and that's what we got all this lumber for. So it'll be 2x6 trusses on 4-foot centers now. The 2x10s ridge beam. These are going to be the outside girts, which are going to double as the fascia board. The 2x4s on 2-foot centers for your girts. And there's going to be, for the trusses are going to stop at the wall, and there'll be kickers nailed in for the overhang to move the overhang up to get more room. Well, first, that's how you make your overhang without having to cut the bird's mouth and weaken the truss. And that gets the overhang up a little bit to get more room for working in here with windows and closing everything in. It is not going to get soffit or anything, because I still want to maintain that looks like it was built in the 50s or 60s look. So I don't want it to look like a new roof on a pole barn. I still want it to look like it was built using the building techniques that they would have used on this type of barn back then. Probably losing the insulation idea, because you're limited to the kind of insulation you could use because of animals and moisture and the way the roof is going to be built. and B, was thinking about it and don't really know how much you're gonna, I mean, obviously you gain something from it, but how much and whether or not it's worth it for animal enclosure, because I mean, you look at the blueprints in that old farm structure book that I have that we talked about several videos, or more than several videos ago. They didn't insulate it. They had your stick built structure, and then they put straw down, and the chickens just dealt with it. So, and eventually there will be power out here to this, and you can get heat lamps or some sort of heat in here if need be. But you get enough birds in here, and we should be able to I mean, this is a fairly large structure for a chicken coop. Plenty of space, so you should be able to get a fair number of birds in here. They should be able to fend for themselves as far as staying warm, I would think. It's sheltered from the wind fairly decent. I think it'll be fine. Get decent doors on it, get it closed up fairly good. I don't think we'll have an issue. If we do, we could do something different at a later date. I also don't know if and we got time to think about this, but I don't know. Well, that stud ain't anywhere close to straight up and down. I'd be curious to go through and measure the studs and see how close they are. All are the same length. Anyhow, got time to think about what I want to do as far as closing on, or if I want to put some sort of skin on the inside to close the walls up. The problem I've thought about with that is it leads to the same issue you have that did the damage to the framing that's in it now, is the critters can find their way in, and then you got stuff like that. So anyhow, that's kind of where we're at. I'm going to warn everybody right now, this is my first time taking on a project like this. I've never done any structural framing before. My terminology is not going to be correct. Last time we did any sort of, or last time I was involved in any sort of anything like this, I was like yay high, and it was when Dad was working on putting the addition on their house and building the pole barn that's at Mom and Dad's, and I was old enough to understand the concept of driving a nail into a board to connect two pieces of wood, but I was not old enough to understand everything that was going on, and there really hasn't been any sort of construction projects like that since. Which is why it's nice to have Dad around, because he spent most of his years when he was my age building houses, because that's what Granddad did for a living until he retired from that and became a building inspector. So Dad knows a lot more about this than I do, so you just go ask Dad. He can guide you through and get you where you need to be. So basically what I got to do to make life easier is we're going to strip off the tin from here up, and this tin will get reused. There's really nothing wrong with it other than it's rusty, but that kind of helps the look. So we're reusing the tin. We basically just need to get it out of the way to make life easier for reframing the roof, and then it can go back on. Like, I mean, I'll probably come in here and like clip that tail off, because I don't know why they bothered doing it here, but they didn't do it there. And just we'll tidy it up a little bit when it goes back together. I'll probably try to bend up some corner pieces to cover this, make it look a little nicer, but for the most part it will pretty much go back together the way it is right now. So we need to strip the last rafters off. The ridge beam can come out. The door frames are staying. We're going to reuse those just to keep as much of the original structure as possible. And with the header and the new trusses, should be able to eliminate 2 of these studs here, because you're going to have a taller truss to screw to begin with. There's still going to be an upright on either side of the door frame, or a stud on either side of the door frame holding the header in. So we'll see. There's still the option to put one here if need be, but don't think we're going to need it. So anyhow, we can finish stripping what we need to strip, and then we can have to start with the headers. And I need to figure, I guess while I have it together enough to still have angles and stuff, I need to figure all my angles for cuts and whatnot to make life easier while I still have something to measure off of. So I'm going to do that real quick. We'll get some stuff drawn up so I know how to make cuts and stuff on the new trusses, and then we can finish stripping down. All right, I did the measuring that I think I needed to do, and finished pulling my tin off. I tell you what, them nails, between that, whether it was molten aluminum or molten lead or whatever they used to make that, the little cover over the head for sealing, which that probably helps date the structure. I'm sure there's somebody on this that watches my channel that's old enough to remember about the time they quit using these and started going to the rubber, the tin nails with the rubber on them, and then eventually realized that nails for fashioning tin just suck all together, and finally came out with barn screws. But so I'm sure that helps date when this thing was built. But anyway, between those lead covers on there making it hard to get a pry bar underneath the head, and then the fact that they're all ring shank, getting those things out is not fun. But that should be the rest of the tin stripping that needs to happen, at least the rest that I'm going to do for the time being. The pieces that were down here, the big pieces, will probably get reused. I think as long as it measures out and it'll work, which I think it should. I'm going to cherry pick some of the better pieces I pulled off the roof and cut new pieces that go up on top, because like over here they had 4 scrap pieces scabbed across there to make it work, and over there they had 3, and it could be done with 1 piece. So when it goes back together, I'll probably reuse the middle pieces and make new top pieces out of some of the roof tin that's in better shape. And I've already went through, I think, half that gallon jug of water. It's not hot, it's just muggy, like unbearably muggy. I'm surprised the dogs came over here. For the longest time they were just moving with the shadow of the barn. They wouldn't leave the barn shadow. But anyhow, now that we're set there, should be able to finish taking these walls out. All right, now that we're all stripped down, we can actually start putting some pieces on. First off, we're gonna add our second layer to the top plate on the walls. And before we do that, we gotta level them, because and you can see I got a string line laid on here. They're a lot of kilter. From here to here ain't bad, and from here to here ain't bad, but everything basically that and that all needs shimmed, it looks like. So I think these two are mole hunting. I think what I wonder, can we just, is everything loose enough? Nope. Dad just said cut the nails with a sawzall. That might be what I do, and then you just put shim shingles in from both sides and get your spacing that you need to level the beam up. And then I don't know how far I didn't check that side yet to know how far out of kilter it is, but let me go get my shim shingles and get a metal blade for the sawzall so we could pop them nails and see what we can do here. Alright, I got all the nails cut. That went pretty easy actually. Now you just take a couple shim shingles. The tin is just high enough on the outside that I can't stuff one in from that side, but we need enough height that it doesn't really matter anyhow. But I can do this one, and since it's kind of in the middle, it should get me picked up where I need to be, and then the other ones are easy. Right there ain't bad. I think that's probably workable. I guess since I got it loose, I'll throw a square on that real quick. It ain't gonna be square. Yeah, it ain't bad for what it is, in all honesty. Alright, I got the two top plates leveled out. This side was the side that visually looked the worst. This side was terrible. It was almost the fattest part of two shim shingles from the second one all the way down to here, and then here it was fine from here down. So I didn't measure the studs to see how, but yeah. So now that's level, These aren't too, they're not too critical. These needed to be leveled because these are where the trusses are going to sit on, so you need your eaves level across the length of the barn. And then this corner, they had this board cut like a 1/4 inch higher, so I was able to take a sawzall and notch like a 1/4 inch out of it and drop it down so that we're flush here. And the rest is pretty much a walk in the park. Don't really know what I can do with that. I don't think this thing, I mean, it can't slide on the foundation because it's got anchor bolts. And the jam is against the foundation down here, so apparently it was just built that way. So I guess there's not a whole lot we can do there. And we did measure, the door jambs are the same width, and they are somewhat relatively square, at least compared to what's square in the rest of this barn. The only thing that's going to be interesting, and probably won't be able to correct it till I start setting trusses, and I'll have to bring a come along over. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but both walls have a bow in them. They're both bowing out, so that's gonna have to be corrected. But like I say, I can't really do anything about it till I start setting trusses, and I'll have to get the truss nailed up top and take a come along and pull the wall in and then nail the truss into the wall. But should be good. So anyway, the next step's to add our second top plate on. So I gotta figure out how I can run the chop saw out here, and then we can start on that. So I don't think I got enough extension cord to get all the way out here. Okay, 200 feet of extension cord later, Shelly ran and got me some while I was getting set up. I don't like Harbor Freight, but we got a Harbor Freight in town. I mean, before we had to drive like 45 minutes to get to one, now we got to drive like 10 minutes. It is handy for things like that. I mean, you're gonna go to a place like Lowe's or Menards, and you're gonna pay $50 for a 100-foot Chinese extension cord, or you can go to Harbor Freight and pay $10 for a 50-foot Harbor Freight Chinese extension cord. It sucks that you got to make that decision, but if you're gonna buy stuff like that, you might as well buy the cheap stuff. I don't know. You have no idea how much it burns me having to say something like that, but it is what it is. Anyhow, while she was doing that, I moved the trailer around where it made a better workbench. This door frame was a little out of kilter, so I was able to knock it around and got it squared up. The only thing that's an issue, and again, it kind of comes with the territory of what we're doing here, none of the dimensions from the door frames to the corners are the same. They're all off by like a 1/4 inch of each other. So is what it is, I guess. But anyhow, so we're gonna do it opposite of what they did to tie the corners together. So on the way with the single that they have, you got your long here, and then the walls butt up, or the short walls butt up to it. We're gonna make this one overlap out to the corner, and then there'll be a short in between. That way it ties the walls together, because right now the only thing tying the walls together is they're nailed there in the corner. So this will actually physically put a tie board, and we'll just kind of do the best we can to make everything match up. So it's probably going to make cutting these rafters are going to be, is going to be an interesting experience. So that one can be 50, we'll start off at 57 and trim it from there. And that's why I kept these 2x4s, was doing stuff like that. I also made me a little sawhorse there. Whoever at Milwaukee set up this saw base was thinking it's exactly 4.5 inches tall, which is exactly 3 2x4s nailed together. So that worked out handy. I don't know what would be better, to cut it laying flat or to cut it standing on end. As twisted as it is, probably cut it laying flat. Actually, 200 feet of extension cord is probably really pushing it for this saw, but it's not like I'm going to be having a lot of duty cycle on it, so it'll be fine. Unfortunately, my closest power out here is that telephone pole right there in the yard. There's an outlet on it, so that's my closest power to this point. So, and I didn't really want to run a generator out here and have to listen to that. That turned out pretty good. I didn't want to have to listen to a generator run the whole time I was out here, so it is what it is. Okay, so that can get nailed in. All right, I got all of the second ridge or top beam in, and got my first set of studs in for the header, and I got that header, or both headers are partially, they're basically mocked up. I got 2 nails drove in them, so they can come back apart if need be. But in that one, this one didn't go too bad. I was just able to nail the studs right up against the door jamb. This one got goofy because this is all jacked up and trying to match the best I can. I had to put shim shingles in there, and now this is square to the wall and everything's somewhat, this side wasn't bad, it was just this side, and I tried taking it apart and twisting it, but it didn't work. So I got it part way, I got it better than it was, but we still had to do some fudging, and all that'll get covered up later. The joys of trying to build on top of this. So this, because of the way it worked out, and it was going to end up longer anyhow, but this header is a 1/2 inch longer than that one. So now this is where things get goofy, because I'm gonna have to mock some stuff up before I finish the headers and mount them, and it's where I'm gonna have to refigure angles, because this going on changed things, and well, basically this going on changed things. So I'm gonna have to mock up my angle from there down and figure out how much of the corners I'm gonna have to clip, which is why I didn't nail them all the way, because I didn't want to accidentally drive a nail where I'm gonna have to run the saw. Now I'm gonna clip the corners to clear the trusses, so that's what I got to figure out next. But I did obviously, so I had to address the bow and the walls earlier than expected, and these 2x4s were straight enough on their own that it actually pulled a fair, especially on this side. This side moved a lot, but it pulled a lot of the bow out on its own, so there'll be a little bit of work left to do when the trusses go on, but not nearly as much. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. At least now I'm working in the shade. It is a whole lot more pleasant than it's been all day up till this point. And my water jug's empty. I've been through a whole gallon of water today. Haven't had to take a leak one time. That's how miserable it's been. All right, I'm having Dad come over to help me. I have a rough idea of how he explained it to me, but I don't want to, like I said at the start of the video, this is venturing into territory that's a little bit foreign to me, so I'm doing the best I can based on prior knowledge, but that's not a very deep prior knowledge base for framing. So I know I've been told on the internet it means I'm fake because I rely on Dad for stuff that I don't know. I mean, I always figured that Dad was around to help teach you stuff you didn't know, but I've been told by the internet that that's not the case, and that means that I'm no good. But I'm gonna still keep using Dad as a resource because Dad's a damn good resource. So I really feel sorry for the guys that don't have a good relationship with their dad. I really do. I know a lot of guys that they love their dads to death, but you try to put two of them together working, and they instantly hate each other. And I'm so glad I don't have that relationship with my dad, because that would suck. I know I'm pretty lucky in that respect. And like I say, I know there's a lot of guys that aren't that lucky, and use them while you can, because they're not always there, or they're not always going to be there. And I don't even want to think about that. So when Dad gets here, and we'll figure this out, and hopefully at least get that cut and get the new ridge beam mounted yet tonight, possibly, hopefully. All right, I'll keep it short so that hopefully we can get this done. It wouldn't be, I would have plenty of time, except for I got a birthday today about halfway through the day. What did you got, a cicada? Say, yeah, no, leave it alone. Leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it. No, leave it. Nope. I know, your wings are wet and you're all screwed up. Come on. There you go. Anyhow, got this all laid out. So this is the angle I got to crop out of the header. And we got the angles laid out on the trusses. So yeah, I can get this side put together, and then Dad helped me with that side so I can do that side, and then we can get the ridge beam in and set trusses, and it should go fairly quick today. right, it's getting close to being all downhill from here. Headers are in, they're all studded out, end rafters are in. So now we can get the ridge beam put in, set 4 trusses in here, set the fly trusses, put the fascia on, and we're done framing. Oh, and the purlins. So this wall measures 142 in between the rafters. That one measures 142 1/4. So we'll split the difference, go 142 1/8 for the ridge beam, and that's what it'll be. All right, I've been cutting back on the video and because I'm about out of battery and I don't want to run and get another one. So I got my trusses. They're just, I got one screw holding them in at the top and they're just sitting on the bottom because I wanted to see how everything was going to land. This is kind of one of those, the joys of trying to work on or join an old building with new building and try to make everything square. I think at this point it's just going to kind of be what it'll be. Because if other than I do have to throw a come along around the ridge beam and pull it that way a little bit because it's kind of got a bow in it, which is to be expected with modern lumber. But if you sight down the edge of the rafters here, these two are in about the width, or about how far out I have to pull the ridge beam. So once I get the ridge beam straightened out, then all these will be in line. If you look over here, the two center ones are this way, about the distance that I need to pull. So, but once I get the ridge beam straightened out, the tips of the rafters will all be in line. You lay a 2x4 across the top. It lands nice and flat. Everything's landing right. What's not landing right, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because if you measure here, from here to here, corner to corner, and then you come to the center and you measure over the top, it's only off by 1/4 inch. But the rafters on that side land roughly right, and then this should be, I mean, you're almost an inch off, which I don't, like I say, I don't fully understand, because the walls aren't an inch off as far as width. But I guess I couldn't even see it at that, because if my ridge beam had a hump up, then both sides would be wrong. So like I say, I think it just is good. I think it's just gonna be what it's gonna be, because as long as the rafters are all even along or across the tips, and they're all even, like they're laying flat, you can lay a 2x4 on them and they're laying flat. That's kind of what you're looking for. And once it's got tin on it, you're not gonna notice until you walk inside that they're landing in different spots here. But like I say, I don't fully understand it, because I had to remake these end rafters because we changed the plan how they were going to join at the top. So 2 of these are the rafters that we made last night here, and they fit. And this distance is the same here as it is where they're landing there, and they don't fit. Well, they fit, everything lines up, it's just they don't line up there, so I don't get it. But anyway, that's where we're at right now. Shelly ran to get me some 1.5-inch ring shanks to put the rafter hangers on, because I forgot to get some. And I'm gonna throw my come along around there and pull that ridge beam out straight, and we should be good-ish. Okay, I got 12% battery left, so we're gonna try to finish this up real quick. This will be the end of this video. Obviously trusses are all in, everything's nailed in where this is the way it is gonna be. I got cross ties on the 2 center ones. Obviously the 2 outer ones don't need them because they're nailed into the header. Hurricane ties here on the outside. This is gonna be sketchy. Battery's really low. Joist hangers here, rafter hangers there. Waiting to mount purlins until I figure out steel. There's a pole barn supplier. Not too far from here. I'm gonna check that out tomorrow. With that being said, I'm tired of this. So that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one before it dips out on me again.